All right, good afternoon, everyone, or morning or evening, depending on what it is at your end. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so excited to have you here. My name is Joy Wimu, and I'm the community manager at PM Help. And you already know how it is. It's always a fun time, always a great, enlightening, insightful time in our PM Help events. So for those who might be joining us for the first time, PM Help is an organization, building a global community focused on helping people to break into product management, to grow their careers, to access real opportunities. And we do this through programs like career support sessions, job support, interview prep, mentorship programs. We also have our AI, CV review tool, and so much more. And all of this is just designed to help people, move forward in their product journey. And which is why we're having a session like this, right? Women in product, navigating the entry from, navigating the path from entry to leadership. Now we're having this conversation because it's in celebration of PM, what do I call it? In celebration of the Women's Month, right? We thought of having this conversation that will bring together women across different levels of the product leadership to share their journey, share insights, share lessons from, building careers in tech, because product management still remains, even as at now, a field that many women are still facing barriers to entry, visibility, advancement, and so much more. And that's why if you have seen panelists line up, you can see that it is a rich one that we have put together. And so without wasting much time, I'm going to be going ahead to introducing our speakers, or our panelists rather. And we have the first person I'll be introducing is Ese Ughulu. Is a digital product manager at BP, where she manages enterprise digital platforms that improves safety, efficiency, and decision-making in complex, regulated environments. Her path into product has taken her across fintech, from product design at InterSwitch to financial market operation at Bank of America, giving her a cross-industry perspective that now shapes how she approaches product strategy, stakeholder alignment, and digital adoption at scale. She's also very passionate about helping others understand what it takes to grow strategically as a product professional. And you're not going to believe this, a very fun fact about her is that she dropped out of a computer science degree in her third year to take a tech role, and it turned out to be the right call. How many of us can do this? So, ladies and gentlemen, join me as we welcome Ese. Let me see those emojis rolling in. Hi, Ese. Would you like to say hi to everyone?
Hi, Joy. Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. Thanks for the intro. And yeah, I'm happy to get into the discussion. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We are so glad that you could join us today. And the second person I'm going to be introducing is Subomi Salami, a senior product manager at Microsoft, where she works on building innovative AI-driven solutions that enhance user work experiences. She brings a very unique blend of strategic thinking, user empathy, and execution to her work. Subomi is very passionate about technology, creativity, and helping others break into tech, and she enjoys sharing insights on career transitions, on product strategy, and of course, AI's impact on the future of work. Thank you so much, Subomi, for being here, for finding our time to speak to our community today. Thank you. If you could, unmute and say hi to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joy. Hi, everyone. Really looking forward to sharing and learning as well from the panel.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Subomi. And finally, we have Aji Bawo, who is an accomplished technology leader with not just 2, not 5, not a decade, but 18 good years of experience in retail technology. She began her career as a database developer, and she has progressed to become the head of Products at Tesco Technology, where she leads more than 20 product teams and oversees a portfolio exceeding £5 million. I don't know if we've been handling such kind of money as individuals, but yeah, Aji is doing that. She's a recognized advocate for diversity and inclusion, and Aji mentors and supports women in technology, and she has been celebrated as a role model through features such as Voices in the Shadow, Lifetime Achievement Award, the Role Model Award, and of course, very recently, she was recognized. She received the award at the Every Woman Tech Leader Awards. Congratulations, Aji, and thank you so much for being here. We're so glad that you can find time to be with us today. Thank you, and if you could, say hi to everyone, we'd really love that.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you for that very humbling intro. Really excited to be here. So yeah, keen to get into the discussion. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And guiding us on this conversation today is Miracle. Miracle is going to be our moderator, and she's widely known as Product Sis. I'm sure that's we've all heard about Product Sis, right? And she's a product manager with over 7 years of combined experience in product development and product management, building and scaling product across startups and global technology companies, including Spotify and Busu. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She has led cross-functional initiatives across growth, retention, monetization, and product delivery in consumer and SaaS environments, bringing practical insights into navigating real-world product decision-making theory. And through her organization, Product Sis, she helps product professionals and builders navigate real-world challenges with clarity and ease. Now we can see that I'm going to be handing you over into very, very capable hands. So thank you so much once again. And before I hand over to our moderator, if you're not already part of the PM Help community, this is your cue to join us, because that's where we're going to continue conversations like this. We'll be sharing opportunities, supporting you with various things related to your. Stop talking now and hand over to our very capable moderator. Hi, Miracle, over to you.
Thank you. Joy. Hi everyone. Hi panelists. Really looking forward to today's session. I'm really excited that I get to be on this in this conversation with incredible women doing incredible things at different levels of leadership. Today's session, like Joe already mentioned earlier, if you weren't around and you just joined, we'll be talking about everything that has to do with navigating the path from entry to leadership as a woman in product. So we are not here to just talk at you. We're not here to talk theory. We're here to talk through the honest reflections, experiences, lessons from our panelists. So whether you're just starting out in product or you're looking to join product or you're already growing your career in product, my hope is that you leave today's conversation with something practical that you can take with you. So yeah, let's get right to it. I'm going to start from the beginning. So one of my favorite things about product management, anytime we get to jump into this kind of conversations, is the journey, like individual journey. So there's something we oftentimes say in product management, is the fact that it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of career path. So everyone has their own unique journey, unique story behind how they got into product. So I'm really excited to dive into that. I want to hear from our panelists today. If you can briefly walk us through your journey into product management. And I am going to start with Subomi. Hi. We are curious. We are very, very curious. What has it been like? Did you just wake up and say, oh, product management is the way? Or what was it like for you?
I think very few people wake up and just decide they want to go into product management. Like you said, I think it's usually a very unique journey for different people. And what I found is that most of the product managers I know had like a different career that they were in before transitioning into product. So I'll share a bit about my story. I grew up in Nigeria. I went to school in Nigeria as well. And then I started my career in sales, so technology sales, at one of the tech startups there back home. And the reason why I did sales was because I was, straight out of the university, and I thought like it was a great role to build certain soft skills and just to understand the world of work. And so I was selling like data products then and working with universities in Nigeria. But I think around like COVID, I was like, I felt that I wanted more. I got a bit bored of sales because with the way it worked, you would sell the same products, usually the same clients, you're trying to upsell. And so it just felt a bit repetitive for me. And so I started looking around, like, what else would I want to do? What do I enjoy doing? And I realized as part of the sales process, I really enjoyed going back to the team and saying, hey, these are some of the requirements that the client has. Like, how do we prioritize? How do we make sure the solution we're building is actually solving their problem? And I was like, oh, could there be a role where I'm just like taking the problem and trying to think about how to solve it? And thinking about that, I was like, oh, that's what product managers do, right? So we had like 2 PMs then in my company. So I sat down with them to just understand more, because it seemed like I was like, so what do you actually do day to day? Like, we don't bring these problems all the time. Like, you just sit down thinking about problems to solve. I didn't know anything about product at the time. So I sat down with those product managers, and I started like shadowing their work, right? Like I started saying, okay, for this client, like, let me actually look at the problems that we have here and let me try to build or come up with ideas for solutions. So that was essentially how I got into doing any sort of like product work within the same company. Eventually became a product manager there, and I found it more interesting for me as a career path. And so I decided to start looking for more roles in products specifically.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I mean, we just started and I'm already taking notes. I mean, one for the moderating, but on the other end, there was something you said that really stood out, which is the fact that you reached out to existing product professionals within your organization. That's something that I've noticed a lot of people trying to transition into product that currently within the professional space don't really do.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think we should actually get on. So shadowing PMs that are already in your organization to really get an idea of what they're doing is really, really spot on. Thank you so much, Subomi, for sharing. I'm going to go to Ese. Hi.
Hi, Ms. Call. Yeah. So for my journey into product management, so for starters, I started my career in product design. I was still in school. I think that was 2020. Like, everybody had downtime. I was looking for what to do. So I got into UX design for a bit, and I got a job at a fintech unicorn back home in Nigeria. I was doing that. It was really fun, exciting. Like, I was still in school. Like, I was working in a big tech organization. Everything was so new. I was so excited. But I think at the 1 year mark, I started to get maybe bored, like Subomi said. And another maybe word I can use to describe how I was feeling at that point was a bit of frustration. And I'll explain why. So in the team, the product designers usually get requirements from product managers. And when you try to contribute or make a case, they're already like, business has already agreed to this, and I didn't like that. So I had a running beef with the product managers on my team at that point. I was like, what do you mean I don't get a say? Is it because you're a product manager? So that's how the beef started, because I was like, I want to have a say, I want to have a seat at the table. So that was how I started expanding my mind. Like, I think I want something more than just product design. Or if I want to be a designer, I would like to be at a company that is design forward, that they take the opinions of the designers really well. And I think that's when I started looking out for roles in product management. And to be fair, when I started interviewing for roles, because I didn't have product management experience technically, what I did was to kind of package my story as a product designer and all the experiences I had as a designer, and put that forward to my product management applications. But I would say my journey into product management started off because of a beef that I had with product managers at that time. And I would say it has really even shaped how I approach product management today, because I love the designers of my team, the engineers. I always make sure they're heard, they're seen, because I know what it means to be at the other side of the table and just getting requirements, do this, do this, do that. But I think that's a brief intro into how I got into product management.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. It's very interesting how things we experience in our unique journey shapes how we interact with our colleagues when we start working with them. I have a dev background, and so I'm kind of all mama bear when it comes to my devs. And so I can really, really imagine. That's really great. Thank you so much for sharing, Ese. And then Aji, hi. We want to hear from you.
No, thank you.
Been?
Yeah, so to be honest, mine is very boring. I started in computer science, so I think I'm overnumbered. I genuinely think I'm overnumbered here. I assume everyone's from Nigeria, but I'm not. I know a lot of people think I'm from Nigeria because of my surname. I inherited that just because I met a boy, but I'm originally from Gambia, so I feel very overnumbered here. But I spend a lot of time with Nigerians, so I might get a citizenship just for good measure. But no, I started in computer science. So I did a bachelor's degree and a master's degree actually in computer science, very specific on engineering core programming. So I did cryptography and stuff like that. So a little bit geeky from that front. And then I did engineering for about 4 years, and just in the boom of when product management was starting. So the big fan companies like Amazon, Netflix, Google was the first. Started to look at bridging the gap between engineering and business and UX and all of that. Then they introduced product and Scrum came along as well. So that's literally when I got into it. So we were one of the first teams in digital to look at what product was, how do we start a product management job family, what does that look like working with design engineering and product, how do we be that center in the middle, and I got chosen to be one of the people to start looking at that. So it wasn't something that I actually opted for. It was something that came as an opportunity just because of my engineering background, but also because I had a fantastic relationship with the business teams. It felt like the right opportunity for me to be that person that sat in the middle between engineering and business. So that's literally how I got into it. Yeah.
Amazing. One of those stories where you just stumble on product management. I think that's one of like my favorite stories as well. Thank you so much for sharing. We have a lot of questions to go through today. And by a lot, I'm not just talking about my own questions. I want to assume that a lot of us on this call, we have a lot of questions for our panelists. So please, while we are going through some of my own questions, do well to put yours down, pen, paper, so that when it's time, we can just throw it all at them. Don't worry, they're capable. All right, so we'll start with the first one. I want to start with Ese. Hi. So when we talk about leadership, right, in product management, there's something that we often say, which is as a product manager, as product managers, we lead by influence and not by authority. Right. And I know sometimes when we talk about leadership, we want to quickly say, let's say VP, like executive senior leadership, but primarily in our roles as product managers, leadership is a core part of what we do in our day-to-day. And so I want to check with you, also given that you transitioned from product design into, after staying like working in product design for a while and then moving into product management. How have you learned? Because I know when we think about product design as well, like you said, yes, it started slightly with a beef and all, but you can tell that for product design, you're more focused on shaping the user experience, but then again, much more of the decision-making power or strategic conversation comes more from the product manager. And so moving from design, where you're more focused on maybe delivery, design requirements, and on stepping into a position where you have much more responsibility. So it's not just about design, it's design, engineering, stakeholders. How have you learned to influence your team and align people around a shared goal without being officially their manager at that level?
Interesting. I really like this question because it reminds me of, like you said, when I was a product designer, my output was just the screens, the flow, the user experience. That's what everybody's asking me for, which I kind of liked because you don't have any other experience but to deliver what they've asked you to do. But on the other side, as a product manager, you kind of have to manage every other person delivering the product. So I think it was something I intentionally had to do or learn. Was one of the most important parts of being a PM is that you also have to make sure that every other person is doing what they need to do to ensure that the goal is met at the end of the day. And on the point on influence, because of my relationship with the product managers when I was a designer, I kind of knew what was working and what wasn't quite working. I know people speak within a team, so I knew what traits the developers didn't really like from the product managers. I knew what traits I didn't really like. I knew what traits I liked and I appreciated, and I felt people within my team also appreciate. So that was one thing I did, replicate the traits that I saw was working and try to stay away from traits that wasn't working quite well for the product team. And another tricky thing with influence, given because I just transitioned into product management and I'm still coming up to 2 years now, influence is kind of hard to build instantaneously. It's something that it's cultivated over time. So I also seek it out not to leave our relationship just to deliverables. Listening, showing that I care, putting time in people's calendars, even the engineers, what do you think? Asking for their opinions, because how will you feel if somebody just telling you do this, do this? You don't ask how they feel, you don't ask about what they think about the approach. So I'm never one to just give people this, and you must deliver. I'm always coming from the angle of this is what we need to do. What do you think? How do you think we can get to this goal? So they also feel like I seek their buy-in in whatever project it is we're trying to do. But to sum it up, I think the first one for me on influence is trying to replicate the traits in product managers that I've experienced before. Number 2 would be building the long-term relationship or making people within my team get buy-in so that they feel like they're tied to the decision that we're making as a team. I think that would be for me, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. 2 things that you said that really stood out, and this is for those that are really, really early in their career and you're also transitioning. You said something about don't limiting relationships to deliverable. That is something that a lot of PMs, especially early career PMs, kind of overlook because you come into the role and all your focus is, okay, by the book, we need PRDs, we need this, we need roadmaps, that's all there is. But when we, for me personally, I'm very big on culture, relationships, and people. Sometimes when we talk about people in product management, it feels as though we're only focused on the users and not the people behind the product itself. And I found it that people love it when you care about them, right? They are more open when you are interested in what they're interested in, either in their lives or even in their own function. Maybe it's a data scientist, it's a data analyst. You want to tap into their own knowledge and expertise. So that's really, really good. And the fact where you talked about how influence is built over time, I had to learn that. And this is kind of, I'm saying this for those that are still early in their career, because sometimes you feel like, oh, they don't trust me, they don't want to hear my voice. But some of these things are built with time. You won't get it in 1 month, you won't get it in 2 months. Time is a major factor when it comes to building trust and that influence. So thank you so much, Ese, for sharing. Subomi, I don't know if you have something to add on that when it comes to influencing your team around a shared goal without directly being their manager of some sort, from your own experience.
I think like one of the most important things that I've found when it comes to influence as a product manager is like being able to build trust. And one part of that is the relationship side of things where, you know, it's a social role at the end of the day. So you need to be able to be friendly with people, care about people. And then there's the other hand of like, do people trust that what you say you would do is what you would do? Have you shown like, you know, previous examples where you've done things, you've said things, you've done them? And have you added value to the team, right? So imagine you're joining a new team. So whether you're a new product manager or you're just moving teams or moving companies, it's really hard for you to have influence at that initial start, right? Because no one knows who you are or what you can do or deliver. And so your main goal at that point is like, how can I build trust with these people? Like, so how can I build the relationships, but also where can I add value? And so if you're earlier in career PM, you're probably looking for like maybe execution gaps or like deliverable gaps, places where you can really plug in with the team to say, oh, I actually fixed that thing that we were all struggling with, or I did that task that no one really wanted to do. If you're more senior, then you're thinking more about the type of value you want to add. Maybe there's been some leadership stressors, or there's things that you know the team is worried about, or there's a bit of unclarity, and you kind of take that upon yourself to go and figure out what needs to be done. Come back to the team, say, hey, I fixed ABC. And that's like one of the ways I found, especially when joining a new team, you need to find value gaps where you can add your own value and build trust. And then the influence will come because now they're like, hey, this person is going to solve my problem. Yeah.
Amazing. So I hear problem solving, not just for the users, but also for people on your team, right? Amazing. Okay, Subomi, we're going to stay on you for a bit. You've moved from early stage, you've gone through mid-level, you're currently senior, right? I'm curious, as you've progressed in your career and you've taken on more ownership. So one thing about leadership is ownership, right? And so I want to know what has been the biggest shift in how you approach your role. I'm sure the way you approached your role when you were just starting, either as a junior or just a PM, to moving to mid-level, now you're senior, they've evolved over the years rather. And so have you approached your role? Like, what has that looked like for you? What has been the biggest shift in how you work from early to where you are now?
Yeah. So I'll say just being more intentional about the type of value that I'm adding. So I feel like on the team as a product manager, there's so many things you could be doing at one time. And I think that's one of the things I really like about the role. It can be very spontaneous and you have to be a self-starter. You have to be able to prioritize. Now, that prioritization bit is really important because I found that when I was earlier in my career, I just find things to do. And I'm like, okay, let me just get this done. I have like a really long to-do list. I'm doing so much, I'm stretched. And it is valuable at that point in my career because maybe that's what I'm there to do, right? Really just get things over the line and execute. But the more senior I've gotten, the more I've realized I need to take a step back sometimes and be really intentional about how I'm prioritizing. So there's this idea of like, there are tasks that are lower leverage and there are tasks that are higher leverage. I think as a product manager, you need to be able to understand like, what are those things that it might take a bit of time, it might seem really difficult, but when I do them, I know that those are the hardest things I needed to do. Those things are going to deliver the most value. Usually I found that those are more in the like product strategy side of things. So not just thinking about like how we're building or the things that we're doing today, but being able to think ahead and being able to think like beyond what your engineers or your designers are thinking about and, try to plug those gaps there. So that's one of the big shifts for me that has really changed in terms of like the more senior I've gotten. The second thing is just kind of like planning my career more, right? So I feel like earlier in my career, I was just like, hey, I'm really excited to be a product manager. I want to deliver all the value that I can. And I wasn't as intentional about like my career growth, which is fine. But I do think for everyone, the earlier, the better. The earlier you can think about like the same way you plan for your product and you have a roadmap and all of that is the same way you should, if that's something you want, also plan your career. And for me, I find that in a lot of companies, some companies do have like more structured growth ladders and some companies don't. But the most important thing is being on the same page with like my manager and my skip level manager about like my goals, my performance, how close or not close I am to hitting those goals, and just having those specific meetings where like all we talk about is like my career growth, because I've realized like that's their job, right? Like their job is to make sure that I'm doing the right things and I'm growing. And so me putting a meeting in like my manager's calendar and saying like, hey, how often do you want us to have this meeting just about career growth? We're not going to talk about work. We're going to talk about, the goals that we set, if I'm meeting those goals, if they're like behaviors that you want me to exhibit more often. And I've only started doing this in like the past 2 years or so of my like product career. And I found it really helped me grow as a product manager, but also like just general like growth and promotions and things like that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So from what you've said, prioritization is key as you navigate the ladder, right? So it's not about just doing, we're also thinking long term. It's not about just what we are doing now, but how are we going to scale what we are doing? Would this still be valuable in the next few months? So thinking really strategically about what you're doing as a team and not just on a delivery standpoint. And I love the point about planning your career. For a career that really strives on planning, prioritization, we really don't pay attention to ourselves at all. Whether it's one sprint, roadmap, Q1, Q2. And so I'm really happy that you mentioned that being intentional about your career growth, because at the end of the day, no one would be more intentional about it than you. And especially if you find yourself in an organization that is not as structured, because I've had like my own fair share, startup, corporate, even within the corporate environment sometimes. I think one thing I really loved about Spotify is that they had that. So we called it PDP, Personal Development Plan. So it was a must across the organization. But sometimes you find yourself in companies that it's not there. They can even help and just say, okay, you have weekly or bi-weekly calls with your manager, but you have to be the one to take a step forward and say, okay, I hear you on my deliverables, but then again, what are your expectations of me when it comes to growing in the next 3-6 months? Because we don't want to be doing this in the next 1 year, just this rather. So thank you so much for me. That was really good. You want to add something?
Yeah, no, and then I think, because this is like a women's talk as well, right? I find that as women, it can be quite like icky sometimes to be like, hey, I want to talk about my promotion, or I want to get promoted, or, you know, and so I feel like it's just practice makes perfect. It's something that you just need to try to do more often of, and then before you know it, it will be second nature.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Subomi. Aji, I don't know if you can add something on that. So it's been how long? 18 years. That's a long time. So you've gone through most of the stages and you're currently head of product. What has that looked like for you? What has been the biggest shift for you from early to senior to head of product? What has that ownership looked like for you?
Yeah, I think it's a different shift. I think when you shift from an individual contributor to someone who's actually leading through others, because when you get to my level where I've got over 24 product teams, I've got probably 400 engineering teams and about 80 odd designers, you're not doing. I can't remember the last time I wrote a user story, if I'm being honest. So I don't do product anymore. I actually do product leadership, which is leading through others. So when you move from an individual contributor to that exec level, it becomes a different shift. And it's the shift from focusing on your own output of what I do to enabling the success of others. It's about how people succeed. It's not about you anymore. Now, the success of others genuinely does mean your success as a leader, but it just means that it's not about your contribution. It's about how you set direction. It's about how you support the team. It's about how you remove obstacles. So you're there to make sure that their path is clear, that they've not got obstacles, that obstacle could be personal, it could be work obstacles, but your job is to remove those obstacles, right? And I think that shift as well from when you're a product manager or an APM to a PM to a senior to a lead, and then getting to a head of, it's about, look, how do I get comfortable with delegating? How do I get comfortable with measuring success through the team outcomes, not your individual achievement? And ultimately, how do I impact others to succeed rather than doing it myself? So that's a big mindset shift. And a lot of people sometimes fumble where they think because they've done it before and they're now leaders, they have to do things themselves. That's not the point. The point and the opportunity companies give you is when they see you building teams that are really high performing and that are successful, and that you've done that through your coaching, direction, being clear on vision, being clear on strategy. That's the different shift.
Amazing. When you started with I don't do product anymore, I was like, oh my God. Am I sure I want to get to that point? Because I love.
Look, it really does depend. I think, look, it depends on whether leadership's for you, which is why with my teams, I always ask, do you want to be an individual contributor? Do you want to keep doing what you're doing? Or do you want to grow through others? Like, do you want to see people grow? Do you want to see people promoted? My biggest joy is seeing someone join my team as an APM and then seeing them become a senior product manager or a lead. It genuinely gives me joy. It's the biggest joy I've had, more than writing a story. And I've done writing stories for years. So it really does depend on you and what makes you happy. And for me, leadership genuinely gives me joy. So it depends on, as an individual, what is it that you want to do. And I Subomi, I agree with everything that you said in terms of us as women. But I think I always say, especially people from African backgrounds, I think we have to unlearn audacity. We have to unlearn gratefulness. I think we're too grateful sometimes. We're always grateful. We're grateful for being here. We're grateful for being in the UK. We're grateful for being given a job. We're grateful for being given a salary. We need to stop being grateful. We've been given a job. We've been given a salary because we're bloody good at what we do. It's not just because someone just upped and gave it to us. So we need to have the audacity to want to succeed, and we need to unlearn being grateful, because it's something we're taught from a very young age that we have to be grateful. So we have to unlearn that, and we have to start being confident in who we are and what we do. Very important.
Wow. Okay, let's all take that in. Very, take it all in. I loved what you said about the individual contributor. And so I know there's this diagram online that talks about once you get to like the senior PM level, there's kind of like a shift. So there's the individual contributor part where I think you see like lead product managers, and then you have the PM people management route. So group product managers, head of product. So yeah, that's really, really great and important. And the part about being on learning, being on and being grateful. I hear you on that, because sometimes it's a privilege to be here. Oh my God. And we kind of undermine our own value. I think I had to unlearn that when I was at Spotify, because my manager, and interestingly, he was a guy, and he was like, Miracle, you have done so much. I don't know why you're kind of, especially on our CVs, we kind of talk down on a lot of things we've done on our CVs. I call it amplifying your value on your CV, like really, really sell yourself. So thank you so much. And we're going to stay on you a bit. I have a follow-up question. You mentioned something about the fact that leading others kind of bring you joy, and you gave an example of seeing people come into the role early career and get to product leadership. Let's stay on that for a bit. From your experience, right, what does leadership actually look like in practice? So now, not just where you are right now, but going through the lens of you seeing others go from early to executive leadership to even the point where you are. How can product managers start demonstrating leadership early in their careers? Like if they're like tips, so that they don't feel like, oh, when I get to that bridge, I'll cross it. Yes, in a way you will cross it. But yes, what are the things that we can start doing now from when you get that first product management role to like moving up the ladder?
Look, my most honest advice I can give is, look, and this is going to sound a bit blunt. It's not meant to be. This is my African honesty always coming through. You're not even going to get there if you don't start it now. You won't even get to leadership. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to wait until I be given a title to lead, you're never getting that title. Just fact. Because no one is going to give you the job if you're not doing it now. So I always say to my team, for you to do my job, I need to start to see you doing it now. And people need to realize that you can lead from anywhere. It doesn't matter where you're an APM, a PM, a senior or lead. Leadership starts literally from the day you step foot in that company. That's when you start. You literally have to start to lead there. It's not about title. It's not about seniority. It's about taking ownership. It's about creating clarity. It's about positively influencing outcomes, regardless of what your role is. So for product managers, it often shows up like everyday action. So aligning stakeholders with a clear goal, making thoughtful decisions with incomplete information. Some people want to say, I want to have every information set. They actually look at leaders who can make decisions when you have given just a tiny bit of information, and they see you as someone who's decisive and a decision maker, but also advocating for customers when it's not even the easiest thing to do. So that is where you start to show leadership. And automatically, how to do that, people can see that this person's a leader, right? So early in your career, start to think about how you demonstrate proactive, and I always use this word, proactive leadership rather than reactive. Bringing structure to ambiguity, communicating clearly, consistently, and most importantly, following through on things that you say you're going to do. So if I say I've committed to this, I'm going to do this, making sure you doggedly follow it to make sure it gets done. And that means listening well. That means building trust. The ladies mentioned that with cross-functional teams. I don't like this idea, Ese, that they don't take design. I love me some design. Making sure that you're bringing all of those cross-functional teams in, but also willing to step in and take responsibility when something is wrong or when something is off track. So some people just shy away and go, something's wrong, I'm going to hide. The person that actually comes up in the front and says, yes, we know something's wrong, but what are we going to do about it? That's a leader. So, and you can do that from anywhere. You don't need a title to do that.
Wow, hope we are taking notes, guys. I think we'll have like a test at the end of this call. But yeah, I'm joking. That was amazing, Aji. Thank you so much. Leadership starts from the day you step into the organization. Leadership is less about the title, it's more about who you're becoming, who you are, what you're doing per time, right? And you talked about taking ownership, influencing outcomes regardless of what your role looks like. And I think it's something that we don't really have these days. People feel like, oh, that's not my job. I get the whole putting boundaries, but honestly, especially in the corporate space, if you're going to grow, there are certain things you have to step into that's not even within your JD, like just allowing your curiosity lead you to grow certain skills and capacity for the titled leadership in front, right? And so that was really amazing. You talked about bringing structure to ambiguity. That's I think that's my favorite point when you step in. And I think Subomi mentioned this earlier, like value. What value are you adding to the team? You come in, something is not right, you prefer a solution, you give options, you align with the team, and then you drive an outcome with that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and Miracle, just quickly on that point on it's not my job. It's the biggest, that sentence is the biggest thing that blocks people in companies. It's not my job. Me, I'm nosy. Everything is my job. I'll go in there and I'll ask, I'll find out. So staying curious as a leadership trait is one of the biggest things that people check for. Be nosy, want to know what's going on. Doesn't matter whether it's your team, someone else's team. So that sentence, people just need to cut it from their vocabulary. Everything is your job if you want to succeed.
Agreed. All right, we have like 1 or 2 more questions. So if you guys have like questions, start putting them down and then we'll take them shortly. I'm going to come back to Ese. Hi. And I think this question also, everyone, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. We're going to be talking, basically, we've made a lot of progress, right, in the tech. I won't say a lot, but it's not showing a lot of progress in the tech industry where it feels like, okay, we are bringing in more women into tech roles. But despite that progress, it feels like women still remain underrepresented in the field. So basically, we still see product and tech teams being largely male dominated. So for example, globally, only like 25% of all tech employees are women. Then if you even go to like the executive leadership, is even smaller when we get to that. My question is, in organizations or product teams that are still largely male dominated, how have you been able to build confidence and credibility as a woman navigating these spaces as you grow your career? So it's not just limited to product. I think all three of you have been like in the tech space for a while. So what has that looked like, you building confidence and credibility over time while navigating your career path? So Ese, we'll start with you and then we'll move to the next person.
Thanks, Miracle. This is such a tricky question. But I think one thing that I've seen that's helped me personally is being deliberate. And when I mean deliberate, what do I mean? Like knowing what I want, singing my tune, and also playing that tune to people I feel that can help me. So maybe sponsors, maybe mentors. Not everybody would like to, support you in your career, but I think it's really helpful when you find people that genuinely care or take an interest in investing in you. I think that really helps because you are not fighting the battle alone. I think I've been lucky enough to have that at different points in my career. So, and you don't just sit down and wait for somebody to come and say, oh, hi, Ese, you've been doing good things. I think I'm going to sponsor you. You need to go out and, sing your tune. This is what I've been able to accomplish. I really like the things that you do. I like the way you approach product management. And, you just try and how do you serenade them in a way? Because when you serenade somebody, it also shows that they feel good about themselves and they kind of take an interest into wanting to invest in your progress or in your career, right? So one thing I've seen that has helped me as maybe the only woman in the room is being deliberate about singing my tune, telling people where I want to go, where, how they can help me get there and how I can help them as well. Another one is also building your craft seriously. So it's one thing to sing your tune, but if the foundation is not there, your skills are zero, like it only gets to a point before everything falls down and the walls crack, right? Investing in yourself, if it's taking extra courses, joining a community that you can stay accountable in, building your competence is very, very important, because once people know that you can do the job, there's nothing they can use against you. They can't say, oh, it's just because she's a woman that she's here. You'll be confident enough in yourself to know that you've done your homework, you put in the work. I think that's another thing that I've always tried to do, building my competence. And I think lastly for me that I'm trying to even improve on is taking challenges that above my grade, right? If you actually want to stand out, you have to go above and beyond what is expected of you. I think the other panelists have also alluded to this fact in the previous question. So just to wrap up, the first one I would say is being deliberate about singing your tune, looking for mentors, looking for sponsors in and outside the organization as a woman. And the second one is also knowing your onions, not just being about the talk. Do you know what you're doing? Do you have competence? And the last one would be taking challenges that will push you to even go above your grade and speak well of you for the sponsors that have already put their names on the line for you. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Being deliberate, that part about singing your tune, I feel like a lot of people don't do that enough, especially in corporate spaces. I get it that when you step into like a role, ideally you should have a manager, but I've had personal experiences where I had to go and find help and sponsor elsewhere, and I've experienced good management, so that's why I'm very big on that. And so it's very important that you're clear about what you want, like Ese already said, and you're able to identify the people that can help you push you to that place. I remember my last organization, I intentionally established a mentor-mentee relationship within the organization with someone else. So technically she was doing what my manager wasn't, and it was fine at the time because I could survive mentally, but just establishing that relationship kind of 2x my journey, my growth, like in less than how many months. So sometimes don't just wait around. Oh, ideally the company is supposed to. You will be there, it's your career. They gave you a job fits into career. You will leave there, you will go on to the next. So thank you so much, Ese. That was really amazing. Subomi, let's hear from you. How have you built confidence, credibility as a woman in tech, in products, navigating your journey? Maybe 1 or 2 points.
Yeah, so very similar to what Ese has shared. I think she shared some really good points on how to build confidence. I could share some more like personal experiences. So like most of us women in product, especially Black women in product, you tend to be the only woman in the room sometimes, the only Black woman in the room. So in my own experience, because I'm working on AI tooling, I work on Copilot, and
I've muted it.
Okay. Yeah, and it can be quite a technical role, right? So a lot of the room is always dominated by people who are older than me, usually male, maybe have more like schooling or education, like they have PhDs, I'm working with like researchers, scientists. And I remember when I joined this team, I was like, wait, what value am I adding here? Like, what can I bring to the table for all these people? Like, why did they hire me? And just your classic imposter syndrome that we all have. And so 2 things that really helped me, similar to what I shared. Number 1 is finding my, right? So you need to find those people that can help. There's the people who are way above your level and like sponsors and mentors, but there's also allies within the team, right? This, as a PM, you're working with different sort of roles. You're working with engineers, designers, researchers. So for me, I'm trying to find like, with this group of people, like who is my person here? Who am I building the relationship with first? Who is the person that I go to ask the silly questions? Because there were so many things I did not know, and I needed to recognize that and have the people that can really help me to, plug that gap that I have. And this also helped in things like meetings, right? Because when you start in a role, like when I did, I was low on confidence because I was like, I don't even know, for like the first month, I didn't know what they were speaking about. I was taking like courses. I had never worked on that technical of a product before. I had never worked on AI. And so in the meetings, I feel like I wasn't sharing my thoughts enough because I was like, I don't know this thing. And there was one person who I had connected with in the first couple of weeks. He was like one of the lead scientists. And he would always be like, oh, let's hear what Subomi has to say. Like, she always has really great thoughts. Like, even though, this person is speaking about the technical bit, let's try to see where Subomi wants to, say something. And that would just give me confidence to like speak and share the silly thought in my mind. And usually, right, it would be helpful for the team because that was part of the perspective that I was bringing. But I feel like if I didn't have that person to say like, hey, actually, guys, let's check in, I might not have spoken in those meetings. So really finding your allies within the team in the day-to-day process can really help you build your confidence. And then the second thing, is just like plugging the gaps. Like, you need to sit down with yourself and figure out, like, are there things that I need to learn to be my best at this role? Are there the areas that I need to upskill? And go and find the best ways to do that, right? Sometimes, like me, I've done a lot of on-the-job learning, right? So I was really just thrown into the deep end. And, as a self-starter, I had to figure out what I need to do to get to the point that I want to get to. But there are things you might identify, like, hey, I actually need to take this course because there are technical terms that I don't know, and I think I need to just know the basics. So there's some of those things that you can do early on. So yeah, I'll just say those two things, like finding your allies and just figuring out where you need to plug the gap. It can really help you just build your confidence, because if you were hired, they hired you because you are good at what you do. And so it's just now about building that confidence within yourself to be able to now deliver the value.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Have an ally, very, very, very important, and address the skill gaps. I see some questions coming in already. We're going to take them shortly. I'm mindful of time, but Aji, I also want to still hear from you. You have like maybe one point to add to that. How have you been able to build confidence over the years and credibility?
Look, I think the lady summarized it really, really well. Ese and Subomi, really great summary in terms of pointers that people can take. I think confidence genuinely comes through action. I think it comes through the willingness to know that you don't have all the answers. Be willing to speak up, be willing to share your perspective, as Subomi explained, and be willing to take informed risk, right? And I think as more you do that, the more your confidence and your credibility will grow. But the main one for me is, I think what I always say to women, especially to women of color, is don't feel pressure to be something that you're not. Don't feel like you have to fit in to a specific mold. Don't feel like you have to be a certain way. No pun intended, but you were hired because you were different. So then I hire people because they're different, because I like a diverse team. And then you come in and you're trying to fit into a mold. Don't try to fit into a mold. Who you are is who you are. If you can't be who you are, where you are, you change where you are, not who you are. So make sure that that person that you are, you come in and show up like that person, because that is the only way you really, really grow your confidence, because you're being true to who you are and you're comfortable in your own skin, regardless of the environment. And if the environment doesn't allow it, then change the environment, but you stay true to who you are. So that would be my only advice, is that genuinely is how you become the best at what you do, because you're yourself, you're confident, you're not trying to be someone else. That is the best way. And then you build your brand in that way, you build your confidence and you build your credibility. So that's my advice, Miracle, because Aji shows up with her scarf, Aji shows up with her Ankara, because it's who Aji is. And Aji is it's not because Aji likes Ankara. Aji is showing up with the Ankara because I'm showing up respect for the people that got me here, my ancestors, my grandparents, my mom. That is who I am. That's my brand. And I'm very comfortable in that brand. So let people make sure that they're just comfortable in their skin, and the confidence will come.
Amazing. You were hired because you are different. I love you so much. When you said that, what came to mind? I think for my introverts in the house, I feel like sometimes we are forced to be who we are not. I mean, yes, there is room for improvement. I am an introvert, so I've had situations with my manager will be like, oh, you need to speak more, speak up more in the room. I get it. But like, first of all, leaning into the core of who you are, what makes you unique, that fits into your brand. Right. And so the point's amazing. I'm mindful of time, so I don't want to talk too much. But thank you so much, ladies. We are gonna go into, I have one more, but we'll take it as a closing question. So let's dive into the questions we have. I'm just going to go to the top. I see some questions already. Okay, so the first one I'm seeing is for Subomi. So someone is Tina is asking, how did you transition from sales to product management? Was it in the same company? And if so, what did that look like as a transition process? For example, was it sales to product marketing to product management?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it was within the same company. However, I've like seen a lot of different transition paths, and I feel like there are some really popular ways to transition, right? The first and the most easiest one is within the same company. So if you're working in sales, if you're working in product marketing, any role really has transferable skills that you can take and put into product. And when you're within a company that has a product function, then it's kind of like you're really close to the people. You can go and speak to the PMs or, the head of product and say, hey, you're considering this, you want to learn more about the role, just because you're closer to those people. So I find that that's the easiest route, but it's not always possible, right? Like maybe they aren't hiring any product, or the company doesn't have product, right? Like maybe you're working in marketing, like an agency or something like that. And so in that case, you obviously need to look out of the company. Now to do this, first of all, you need to just assess your current role and what you're doing and highlight all the things that could be product related, right? So there's so many things. If you're speaking to customers, if you're identifying problems, if you're doing user research, if you're thinking about product in any way, those are transferable skills that you want to highlight in your resume. Now, I know it can be really hard, like with applying to product roles without past product experience. So what I always advise people to do is, first, on one hand, you can look out for those like entry-level roles. So I actually, after working for product in Nigeria for a year, I got into a rotational product management role, which did not require past product experience. So the whole point of the kind of experience was to get product managers from different perspectives. Like I had someone that was on the same cohort with me, used to be a doctor and was switching into product. Like I can imagine that is hard in the day-to-day life, but so one of those programs are a good way to do that. And then the second way is, just either switching to a more adjacent role, depending if you're like a doctor, maybe you're switching to something in a health tech company or some other type of company that has a product arm that that's your end goal. And then lastly is just applying for the product roles that you see, but making sure you tune your CV as much as possible, highlighting all the past experiences, maybe having a section where you're sharing why, because one of the questions people's minds could be like, why are you leaving sales, or why are you leaving product marketing? What's your story? Maybe putting a slash, like you worked in sales, but slash product, you were doing a lot of like product things in the role. That could help, because with recruiters, they just want to have that initial conversation with you to just understand what value you could add. Yeah, hope that was helpful.
Thank you. That was super helpful. I just have a follow-up question. I'm sorry, am I actually allowed to do this? I wasn't. Sorry, Miracle. I just wanted to ask, I'm also in sales as well, so I'm doing that transition. What would you say you kind of leaned on from your sales role to product management? I know there's specific things, but specifically for you, what kind of skills did you lean on that really amplified, okay, this makes sense for you to move into sales?
Yeah, I think for me, it was like the being able to understand what was a real problem for the user. So I was really close to the problem. I'm really close to the customer. And so that was like what I was using as like my selling point. Like, hey, I can really understand the user's problems and, translate that to requirements for the engineering team. Personally, I also feel that's one of the most important parts of product management, because not everything is a real problem. So being able to think about problems is something we do a lot in sales. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Subomi. Thank you, Tina. I'm going to move to the next question. I think this will be between Ese and Aji. As a junior PM, how do you manage priorities when additional responsibilities are assigned to you, especially when there's already an owner for that task and you still have your own deliverables? How do you set boundaries without coming across as uncooperative? And Roslyn goes on to say, especially in situations where multiple responsibilities are assigned across roles, how does an entry-level PM effectively manage prioritization and ownership without overstepping or being perceived as difficult? Can you take that one?
Yeah. Interesting question. I think just thinking about a personal experience. So in addition to my day-to-day job, I found out that people in the team were giving me other stuff to do, which is typically other people's jobs, things like you've alluded to. To be honest, at first I took everything on. Then I got to a point where I was burnt out and I was like, I can't manage everything I promised to deliver on. But I think what helped was discussing with my manager about the extra responsibility that was given to me. I had to say, hey, I appreciate that you're giving me more things because you think I can deliver on them. But for me to deliver on X that you've given me, Y has to suffer. Or would you be happy if I turn in this one first and this one later? Just managing expectations and communicating that I have so much on my plate. I'm happy to do them, but this is the reality of things. If you want me to do X first, that's fine. That helps me to prioritize which one to tackle first. And you also mentioned something about responsibilities that belong to others. I don't know if you can give more context on that. So what are the other people doing now that you're doing?
Are you on the call?
Because that's very interesting when you now have to step in for other people. But for what I can say, I don't know if she's on the call.
All right. Let me give more clarity to that.
Yeah.
In my team, we have a social media manager before I joined, which is actually performing well. And while joining the team, the responsibilities which this social media perform in terms of research, content writing, related to this product was now assigned back to my team, which is in the product team. So I was like, I will still have other responsibility in ensuring that we get to users onboarded. Day to day, that is the major priority, and working alongside with the engineering teams. So whereas this social media manager is already there, is doing his work perfectly fine, but now we're not taking on the responsibility, and that is where it's actually coming off as too much responsibility to actually handle, whereas this person is already there, and it seems we're actually taking up this person's responsibility.
Yes, that's clear. Thanks for that context. I think what I would say is just similar to what I shared before. The approach I took in a similar situation I had is communicating to the person that manages everybody and say, hey, this person was doing XYZ and now you've put it onto our team and it's making our deliverables suffer. Would you be happy if we focus on the social media content and we, suffer on delivering the products KPIs that we have, or do we suggest we give it back to the original person that was giving it? Because you can't just take everything. Your manager would, if you don't speak up, your manager will assume, your team can handle everything. But you have to speak up and say, this is making our actual deliverables suffer. How can we manage? What can we prioritize? And how would you want us to walk through this? But I don't know if Aji has something to add on that one.
Yeah, Aji, from a manager standpoint, because you manage a lot of people, and I know they will come to you for things like this, like what would be your response to that, or like how would Roslyn navigate that?
Yeah, look, I think one of the true tests of leadership as well is how do you effectively say no? Because I think as part of the question, there was something about not wanting to come across as difficult.
Yeah.
I think it's what stops most people from saying no is because either they don't want people to say, oh, she said no to me, or they don't like me anymore, or, and that's not the point. The point of leadership is actually you can literally hold your boundary kindly, but firmly. It's about being firm to clear to say, look, because I've got this thing already happening here, which is delivering this value, I can't add this on top of that workload because it means then I can't deliver this most important thing. We could offer alternatives and say, why don't you try this? Or why don't you talk to this person? Maybe they'll be able to offer help. Or what about looking at another team to do it? And then stay there. That's it. That's your standstill in terms of saying no. But taking on more stuff when you know that then you can't deliver it, that's a worse thing to do than actually being kind and saying, no, I can't do this now because I've got these other things happening, and then being very firm on that no, but doing it in a way that's still kind, so no one deems you difficult. But I think the mindset has to shift, that just because I'm saying no doesn't mean that I'm unkind or someone's going to say that I'm difficult. It's just being clear on your boundaries. That's all it is. Yeah, how you say it matters. So just think about how you say it.
Right. Thank you so much, Aji. All right. This next question, I'm going to go to Subomi. How do you see AI shaping product management? And for someone looking to transition from project management to product, what are the skills, technical and soft, to focus on building? Lastly, do you recommend applying for associate PM roles if you have up to 4 years in roles with transferable skills? That's the first part of the question. Let's start with that.
Yeah, so maybe I'll start from the bottom. Applying for associate product manager roles, I think it depends on your career goals, right? Like for some of those roles, they want people maybe straight out of uni. For some of them, they don't really mind. But if, sometimes in your career, you might have to take a step back and, consider where you are. So some people are happy to take like a pay cut or a level cut, things like that, to get to where you want to be. I don't think careers are linear. Like you don't have to just keep going. You can reassess and change direction. So if there are opportunities like that, like I did that as well, because I was working for a few years and then taking a rotational product role. So it's up to you and your career goals. The second thing is project management to product. Okay, I feel like project management is quite broad, and it does cover, multiple different types of like skills, but I would say in my mind, it's more execution delivery focused. So with project management, you're usually working on like a timed project maybe, and you have to deliver, get things over the line. While with products, it usually includes that, plus thinking about the why, like why are you building what you're building? What are you going to build over the year? What's your like strategy? It probably includes a bit more stakeholder management, like reporting back to leadership, and just also aligning everyone around the same goal. Those are things you might not need to do as a project manager. So as a product manager, I've worked with project managers on my team in some companies, and they would like handle like really, all the tracking and Jira ticketing and things like that. So it just depends on the company, but I would say those softer skills of like strategy management are things that you might want to add on if you want to switch. And lastly, AI shaping product management. I feel like we're all in the AI world now. We're probably all familiar with like the chat tools and maybe Claude and things like that. I do think it is becoming really important to become knowledgeable about those tools as a consumer, right? Like it is part of the world we're in today, and so you should be able to like use the AI tools to achieve certain goals. Depending on the role, it's not like usually a requirement. Like it just depends on the type of role you're going for. But I've heard that in a lot of interviews these days, hiring managers are asking, how are you using AI in your personal workflows, or or how knowledgeable are you with AI tools? So I do think like everyone, like these are really powerful tools that can help in your like personal life. So I do think it's something that we should all be familiar with. In terms of AI shaping product management, I don't know. I feel like it really depends on the industry. Like in where I work is really high because I'm working on AI. So I'm at work and I'm using like Claude, and I found it really powerful, like doing things like analysis. And I think what is going to happen is like the really good product managers will remain, right? Because then there's still a lot of things you need to do as a product manager. But if you're someone who's just doing like basic execution, basic data analysis, these are things that the tools are becoming able to do. So yeah, there's something that they say like AI is not going to remove product managers, but the people that use AI are going to be the people that remain, something like that. So that's how I think about it as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. There's something you said about the hiring part. I had a practical experience of that where I had to build the prototype with Lovable in one of my interviews recently. So yeah, it's something that just allow curiosity leads. Don't get overwhelmed, because it feels like when you wake up every morning these days, there's one new tool. Oh, clock this. Lovable that, both this, right? It boils down to what do you want out of your career? What are the things that are needed? So you're not tossed by what I would say every wind of trends, to be honest. But yeah, it is something hiring managers are looking at. It just helps you stand out, to be honest. If you don't know how to use it, they won't really penalize you for it, but it just helps you just stand out amongst every other person. But yeah, thank you so much. That was really good. There's a follow-up question. I think we'll take maybe 3 more. So what are the next career opportunities you see PMs move to, and where do you see yourself growing into? I don't know, Subomi, do you want to continue, or maybe Aji can help us take that one? So just looking at the trends, like in the industry, product management, there's a rise of like new product roles, right? But what are the trends, opportunities you see PMs breaking into?
Yeah, look, I think Subomi mentioned it. I think product management, especially within the AI space, it's definitely coming up. And I think you're absolutely spot on. The people that are now curious and learning more about AI, and actually how can AI remove the redundant task that we do in product and focus on the more important tasks like the strategic thinking, where we headed, the innovation. Those are the people that are going to be standing up, right? So that's definitely a trend coming up, trend in AI. I think there's a lot of conversation happening at the moment around product managers and vibe coding. How do product managers start to think about coding? I do Python courses, but then I come from an engineering background. But I do strongly encourage now product managers, even with engineering, AI is coding for them, right? So we will come to a world where there's a blend of product doing a little bit of vibe coding, doing a little bit of strategic thinking, and a little bit of everything, because AI will start to do some of the bits in between. So people do have to start to think about how they transition and how they get ahead of that curve by learning some of these things, right? Going on maybe a Python course just to understand Python coding, looking at vibe coding. Lovable is fantastic to help with things like prototyping. So actually you don't now need designers to do a prototype on Figma for you. You could quickly knock something up with Lovable. So there's a whole lot of things that are coming up that I think people just need to get ahead of, because that's literally how you stay in the game. It's just making sure that you're looking ahead and you're predicting what's going to come up and how you show up. So yeah, that will be my view. Just do a lot of research, be very curious, learn. If you've got spare time, take up a course. There's loads of free courses. There's LinkedIn Learning. There's loads of free courses. Look at how you do those just to build yourself up. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Aji. One more thing I think to add to that, in terms of the things are coming up for product management. So there's like the specialization lens, and there's also the industry lens and like business model. So I've seen that there's a lot of trends around B2B focused product management. So a lot of companies are looking for product managers that can work in that space beyond fintech and AI, of course. There's also a subtle specialization, and I might be a bit biased because that's my specialty, is growth product management. If you're a marketer, you don't have to be a marketer, because I stumbled upon growth. I didn't have like a previous background. But if you think about it, when everybody has built everything with AI, they want to monetize it. They want to keep people engaged. They want some sort of retention, and want to find a way to get people into this product. That is what we do in Growth PM. So you can also look into that as well. It doesn't mean that you won't also be good with AI, but then again, yeah, there's also the other things based on your current priorities when it comes to your career. All right, we still have some time. I'm gonna pick another question. There was one I wanted Ajit to help us look at. Wow, the questions are coming. Where were you guys, please? What's going on? Okay, don't have. Okay, I'm gonna go to Kiki. As someone who recently started her product management journey, how do you navigate situations where your current organization isn't giving you the opportunity to grow or fully utilize your potential. Despite putting in consistent efforts to break through, the progress isn't yielding results. Additionally, could you share whether it's possible to gain experience? Okay, that's a separate question. Let's start with the first one. So in an organization that's not giving you the opportunity to fully utilize your potential, how do you break through that? Aji, if you can help me take that, and then Ese will come to you for the second part of the question.
So maybe just for my understanding, you saying that you're doing all of the work, but you're not seeing any of the reward or the outcome coming through. Is that what the question is? Just so maybe I understand fully.
Kiki, can you help throw more light?
Certainly. Hi, Aji. So recently I graduated from Brain Station. I just finished product management certification course from Brain Station sometime in October, right?
Okay.
And I've been trying to break into like the product management team.
Yeah.
My understanding, like as the day goes by, I come to understand that there's like a difference between like a mentor and a sponsor.
Yes.
In order for me to just break into the industry, I had to reach out to someone, and he is sort of a sponsor as well as a mentor. And I was like, this is what I'm looking into. I've always wanted to be in the product management space, hence why I went for this certification to like just upscale. Could you point me in the right direction? And he I reached out to a couple of people, and I work in a fintech organization already, so like they're big on products, and I've exhausted all my options. I've reached out to everybody possible, and the more I try, the more I'm being doing that. So I don't know what else to do, like just to put myself out there. I have tried like humanly possible to put myself out there, but it's like I don't want to say it's I don't want to bring in like the race card to it, but like it sort of leans towards that direction. So I don't know how to navigate that sort of situation. So if you could like, give me ideas or tips, that would be helpful.
I get really sad these days when I hear that we've still got companies like this where you're seeing certain things. So I'm assuming you've tried everything possible within the product organization where you are now. You've reached out to everyone that has a seat at the table, and still nothing has happened. There's a big difference between mentorship and sponsorship, because I always like to explain that a lot of people talk about mentorship, which is great because mentors are there to help you. I always use the analogy of a boxing ring. They're there to help you get ready. They're there to train you. They, do all of that, but they are not in the ring. They're not in the ring fighting for you. That is what a sponsor does. A sponsor is in the ring, literally getting knocks, using their own credit to say, I am backing Kiki. I think Kiki is awesome. I think Kiki can do this job. Give Kiki the job. That is a sponsor. So I always say to people, if you're looking for something in an organization, aim for a sponsor first, because a sponsor will actually get you the job, not necessarily the mentor. The mentor may help you get ready, but they're not the biggest. They're not the biggest name in the company that may help you get that next job. So if you've exhausted all of those avenues within the company, then I suggest we need to start looking at outside, because sometimes it's like flogging a dead horse. If you've tried within that company and it's not working and they're not seeing your value, then actually maybe that company isn't for you. Then I would start to look at other options, like PM Help is great. They can help you look at other areas, and they can actually link you to people who can mentor you in other organizations that can open doors for you, or they can be a sponsor that open doors. Because I know within some organizations, PM Help is one. There's Black Valley that also does a lot of mentorship. They have big names in big companies that actually say they can mentor you, and they can actually open doors that say, we've got a vacancy for an APM, would you like to apply? So I think you need to try now, looking at trying your options elsewhere, because you could spend years trying here, and if you haven't seen any progress, you don't want to wait anymore, and you're not seeing it. Try looking elsewhere and try using companies like PM Help to help you do that. And obviously reach out if you need any extra support. I'm more than happy. I'm on LinkedIn. Reach out and I can give you connections to other companies that I know have vacancies and trying to get entry-level products. Then we can have that conversation. But don't keep flagging a dead horse, because sometimes it's not worth it if you're not getting the traction that you need. And yes, sometimes it's race. People don't want to say it, but sometimes it is. So if you're not seeing movement, there are other companies that would really value you. They'll value who you are, and they'll value what you do. So let's do that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Aji. And we are mindful of time. Kauna, we'll take yours. You raised your hand initially, so I've seen it in the chat, but I want you to take that verbally. I'm going to ask one more question. I see Rosalind and Mercy. They have similar questions, so I'm just going to pick one and then let's see if you can help us on this one. So what are the most effective strategies for breaking into international or remote PM roles from a local market like Nigeria, especially for candidates with experience but limited global exposure or network access? Beyond LinkedIn, networking and communities, what practical strategies do professionals practice for transitioning from local markets to break into well-paying global PM opportunities?
This is a loaded question. And you want me to give you answers beyond LinkedIn networking? It's gonna be a hard one.
Those are the answers.
Right? Those were the answers I was going to give. But I think I can just bring it home for myself a bit. And another thing disclaimer I would like to even give everybody is that if you're saying that you're not breaking into the international market, it might not be a reflection of your competency per se, because I don't know, the hiring situation comes in waves. Like the year I was hired from Nigeria, I think that was a really good year because I got hired for at Bank of America and BP the same year. But the next year, most of my friends or people I knew in my network were not as lucky as I was. So that's something to keep in mind, that it might not be that you're not good enough for competency issues. Just companies hire in waves, like different companies, they feel like, oh, let's look for international talent this year. But beyond that disclaimer, I'm thinking of answers beyond LinkedIn networking.
What about strategies? So instead of platforms, right? Yeah. Instead of platform, rather, like strategies, we could talk community, like there are different things that probably you could point to beyond just platforms.
Yeah, fair enough. So for strategy, I think one strategy I tried to implement was, so if I was applying to a particular company, I always make the point to look for somebody in a similar role in that company. I mean, I think I adopted this strategy after I tried the other strategy, which is applying to as many as possible. I found that wasn't working as well. So I kind of tailored my application to specific companies that I had already built relationships with people, say in the product team, in the design team, in those companies. So if it's reaching out to somebody, I know this is really hard work because for some of these relationships I tried to build, I didn't think a job was going to come out of it at the end of the day, right? I was just trying my best to knock on every door I could, right? So one strategy that I really tried to, implement, which I'm sure most of us already know, is if I'm applying for a role, I make it a point to reach out to somebody. If it's not the hiring manager, somebody in the product team, or even a step higher product leadership, or even speaking to people on that same grade to kind of ask for pointers, what are they looking for, discuss with these people. And when building that relationship or having that conversation with those people, you can also throw in a referral there, because imagine when you're applying to a job, over 1,000 people are applying to the same job as you are. So just finding those key people I can reach out to build relationship with, maybe ask for a referral. I think that's a strategy that is, I don't know, that is different from what you've listed that I used. Yeah. I don't know, Subomi, you want to say something?
Yeah, Subomi can go because we have 4 minutes left and Kauna needs to go. But Subomi, can you just give us
just to add to that, I think like experimenting with the job application process. So like Ese said, it's not a reflection of your abilities. Like there's so much that's out of your control. But I think looking at what's within your control, for example, if you're applying with your resume, maybe try always really tailoring the first line, because sometimes I find when I was interviewing, when I would change the first couple of lines to literally be what was in the JD, like almost in a way that if I look at it, I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. Those are the times I get called. So just being able to experiment with things like that, with your resume, with whether you're reaching out to people, I think it's really important to reach out to someone as part of the process. Yeah, that could also help increase.
Amazing, thank you. So reach out to someone, hiring manager, referral, experiment with the process. Referral, especially in the international market, is quite common because organizations have systems in place for that. So it's not just who you know per se, it's not just word of mouth, it's they can actually put your CV and everything on their back end from their end. So you definitely try that out. And we'll take the last question. Can we make it a bit short? Because I know you had, if you can pick just one or two out of the questions you have in the chat. Thank you. You're muted if you're, all right.
Hi, good afternoon. Oh, thank you so much, Miracle, and thank you, everyone. I have been blessed joining, and this is actually a miracle for me, one of my answered prayers. Please, I, when I joined the meeting, I was like, please, Lord, help me connect with great women, because somebody like me, I'm just transitioning into product management. So don't have any background. I've gotten a couple of rejection for interviews. So I'm just like in a state of a bit of confusion and help. And I just need help. Like, please, somebody need to hold my hand. I need to know what are even the right courses for me to do right now. Though I'm doing a course in Udemy, just to let me keep myself busy, because I'm transitioning, and I just need help. I need mentorship. I need like to speak to someone one-on-one. What do I need at this stage right now? What am I not getting right? How do I tailor my CV? And is my LinkedIn profile okay? You know, all those kind of questions. There's multitude of questions in my mind, and I just need that help and that push right now. I think that summarizes my question. But if you want me to read it, I just said.
No, it's fine. You don't have.
Yeah.
I think before I hand over to one of the panelists, the first time I asked, are you part of the PM Help community? Because we do job support, interview prep sessions every month. There's also the CV review. Are you part of those programs?
I just joined.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Joy. So we're gonna follow up, and she's gonna share a link. She has been sharing links, but definitely join the community. Feel free to DM her as well, and can also take it up from there. But I don't know any of our panelists at time. But if you have one thing or two, or if Kauna can reach out,
yes, please.
Async. But yeah, PM Help is really helpful. Like we really we do a lot. So we have a lot that you will benefit from mentorship to reviews to job support to ranting sessions. I mean, that session you can come and just and then once we join, we'll pick it up from there.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Welcome. All right, thank you so much. This was really great. So many questions. I wish we could take all of them. But yeah, so we're already at time. Thank you so much to our panelists. I really enjoyed this session. Thank you for the insight. Thank you for sharing your journey, your lessons with us, and thank you to everyone who joined us and stayed till this point, stayed very engaged. Before we wrap up, just a few quick announcement, or also the LinkedIn links to our panelists, like their LinkedIn profiles. Joy has put that in the chat, so feel free to connect with them. Upcoming events, so we have our interview prep coming soon. So on the 2nd of April, that's literally next week, around 6 p.m. GMT, we have that session. So if you're currently in the process of interviewing, or you don't even have to be, just want to come, listen in, hear insight, practice. I know we do some sort of practice on the spot as well. Please join that session. Job search support is coming up as well on the 7th of April, 6 p.m. GMT. Joy will share the link. If you're actively applying for jobs, preparing for interviews, these sessions are designed for you and designed to give you practical and actionable support. Don't forget to leave us a review. I'm sure you're leaving here clearer, more inspired than before. So drop a review, and also join the community for more support from our end and share feedback with us. I I'm sure Joy is dropping all these links on the group. So yes, thank you so much, Subomi. Thank you, Ese. Thank you, Aji. I'll definitely be in you guys there. Me too. I want to connect. I want to also ask questions. But yeah, thank you so much. Have a great rest of
Hi,
yes,
Miracle.
Joy.
Just before you wrap up, I was just going to chip in. Thank you so much for making those announcements. Also, just for everyone to know that we are rebranding a little bit. So our job support session is going to be called Product Therapy, right? And we're going to be, announcing something else for our job support in the coming weeks. So yeah, like Miracle said, there's a lot that goes on in the community. Various, we used to offer one-on-one CV review sessions, but now we have an AI CV review tool for that. You can join our community so we can share that link directly with you. You have access to review your CV more than 3 times, up to 3 times a month for free. You get actionable points on what's working, what you need to do, what you can implement, how you can make it better. Interview prep sessions, how to prep for interviews. I know many of us are looking for jobs. You want to land that next big role in Microsoft, in Google. Now, all of these sessions are tailored for this, and it's all for free. This is what you would pay, dollars and pounds to consult with people, but we do that for free, and that's what we do at PM Help. So join the community, we'll share more information on that. And please share your feedback on this session. Thank you so much. That's all from me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Joy. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your Saturday and see you in the next one.
Thank you so much, everyone.